All right, Kaylee, thank you. And breaking news right now at 4:30. Buffalo police are holding a news conference right now on the search for the missing police diver. Let's go ahead and take a listen in.
Sonar and 3D mapping capabilities. A lot of the day was spent having those boats traverse the water from the point where we know the diver entered as far down as the International Bridge. From the way it was explained, the way the mapping works is they have to make multiple passes. Every time they make a pass in a certain grid pattern, produces one layer of the map. The more passes, the more layers of the map that get developed. The images it develops are extremely sophisticated. You could see literally rocks on the bottom of the water. As we've been saying now for days, unfortunately, the amount of debris field that is on the American side of this river, extending out as far as possibly 100, 200 feet, is just extremely complicated, extremely complex. So it just involves a lot of swipes with sonar, swipes with cameras. Unfortunately, because of yesterday's weather, I should say, the visibility was almost between 0 and 1 foot. We had divers in from early this morning. They made multiple passes, and it was determined that the likelihood of the divers being able to have a productive day wasn't going to be there. So we pulled our divers out. They've all been on standby in the event that we did locate our diver, then we would send them back in. So the most of the day, as I said, was done with electronic scanning and technology, and tomorrow we'll continue with that, hoping, looking at weather reports for tomorrow, there's a chance of rain, but it might stay north of the city, which would be a good thing. So I'll take a couple questions.
The divers are out, but is the search over for today? Is that what you're saying?
No, the search is continuing, just again with the sonar patterns, cameras. I know to the people watching this, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, why is it this difficult? If you have all this technology, why can't you see it? And everybody from all these other agencies that came here said, if this was a still body of water, if this was a normal river flowing at 2 knots, 3 knots, we'd have this thing marked out like a Google Earth map for you. It's the speed of the river, it's the debris field, it's the currents, it's the wind. It's just that perfect storm of conditions. It's just making it extremely difficult. It's more difficult than the technology will allow us to work through.
Is there a general area that the Buffalo Police Department, all these agencies are looking at, or is it just up in the air?
I don't want to say it's up in the air. It's basically, based on drownings that the police department has investigated over the years, we have a history of knowing how these things occur and what happens after the fact. Meaning somebody calls 911 and says, I saw somebody jump in the water here. And then we know days later, a week later, where they come up. We've had divers today from retired commanders of the Buffalo Police URT, civilian divers, people that have known these waters. We had a phone call from a gentleman who's been a fisherman for 60 years on this river call. We're just, everybody is brainstorming. Remember that one time that this case happened? Remember that other time where we recovered somebody here? So again, the search is focused on what our experience and the history of diving these waters have taught us about where to be looking, what to be doing. It's just, unfortunately, there's just so many variables. It's just making it difficult. And again, that debris field, it's not as easy as just putting a diver in the water who can see 20 feet around him or her and just go down there and look. So,
Lieutenant, would you expect that, obviously you don't want to give up this search anytime soon, but would you expect with this mass concentrated effort that this will continue for the throughout the week, or have they been reassessing or thinking about how long they can keep going here?
Well, every day in the morning around 7 a.m. we have a meeting with our dive teams, our boat teams, our sonar teams, our air teams, and we come up with a plan. So I would expect that for the next few days you'll see this operation continue the way it is, because there's still parts of the river that we have yet to really focus and concentrate on. I can tell you that we're cognizant of the effort. We're also cognizant of the fact that we're pulling a lot of resources that have been volunteered and donated from a lot of communities, both not only here in New York State, but as well as Canada. So it's something we're looking at, we're assessing, but I don't think we're at the stage yet to kind of make a fast stop call.
Couple more. Earlier today you said that you were looking for an air tank, rope, anything like that. Have you found anything linked to the officer?
Unfortunately, no, nothing at this point. We did earlier, they did see in the water some rope. Fortunately, we were able to verify with the underwater camera. It was in a section that was somewhat easily accessible, that it was not the same type of rope that our diver had attached to him.
We're going to talk about the mood of the officer taking part in this search. What's the morale like?
It's a lot of ups and downs, you know. I mean, we get word that there's a possible sonar hit of something. You kind of see their spirits pick up a little bit, you know, and then it goes right back down because the boat camera goes through and says no, or the diver goes through and says no, it wasn't it. So it's like an emotional roller coaster. And at this point, you hate to show enthusiasm or excitement at the thought of having to recover a fellow officer. But like I said, the goal now, the only thing that the focus is recovery of our officer to bring closure to this family. And then secondly, to the men and women of the department.
One more.
So we were watching the helicopter. It was flying pretty low and then circling above a certain area. Can you talk a little about why it was doing that? Is it offering infrared? What does a helicopter add?
Yeah, the helicopter has the ability to see X amount of feet under the water. Obviously, with the way the sunlight reflects off the water, something that's shiny would possibly reflect from the water. So they're kind of concentrating again. You know, the experts are telling us an area. They're kind of pinpointing for us a certain area from the point that the diver went in to where the diver became in trouble, where we know our officers found the inability to remove him via the tender line. So, you know, the helicopter's focusing in that area. If a diver gets in trouble in the water, there's apparently 3 different things that they can do to untangle themselves. They cut their tender line if that's what's hanging them up. They dump their BC, buoyancy control, which would make them rise up, or they take off a weight belt to get up, or worst case scenario, if they're hung up with any portion of that gear, they can literally take the tank, the weight belt, the BC, pop it all off, and then their wetsuit would bring them up to the water. So the helicopters are searching for any sign of that type of equipment being on the shore, on the surface, stuck but visible somewhere down within the water line. That's what they're doing. They can obviously cover a lot more territory by air than we can by sea.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Do you think 7 o'clock tonight you'll wrap up?
Yeah, again, sundown is what time we'll be having the boat searches stop, and we'll be starting tomorrow approximately the same time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Once again, that was Buffalo Police Lieutenant Jeff Ronaldo giving a brief update about the search right now. He's saying that there are not divers in the water right now as the visibility is very low, about 0 to 1 feet. He says they pulled them earlier today. Now, there are several different vessels out there, though, and he says that you keep seeing them around the same area because they're continuing to sweep those same areas as they just have to go over it time and time again, and that's how they get the images that they're looking for. Now, as you can hear, probably there's a helicopter flying above us. He's saying that they just have a better view of what's going on. The lieutenant once again adding, though, that it's very emotional out here. They get a little hyped up when they hear that maybe there's something, but then he says it's just a lot of lows here as they're continuing to look for Officer Craig Lehner. Now, we're going to continue following this search effort as it continues. Once again, you heard him say that it should wrap up around 7 o'clock tonight, and we are going to be here bringing you updates throughout the evening. For now, though, live from Broderick Park, Ellie Ingersoll, News 4 at 4.